What is the best portrait lens for your Sony A7 III for under $1,000? Stay tuned and find out on Gadgets on Demand, coming up. Hey, how's it going everybody? My name is Rick and welcome to another episode of Gadgets on Demand. In today's episode, I'll be reviewing the Sony 85mm FE 1.8. Now, the reason why I'm interested on reviewing this particular lens is because all the good reviews I've heard about this lens and how this lens comparable to the Zeiss 85mm FE 1.8. Now, Zeiss are known for their great optic quality, so to be priced at $1,200, it is pretty reasonable. However, this lens costs about half the price of the Zeiss Batis, which is $600. And yet, some people couldn't tell the difference in the image quality when it comes to this lens and the Batis. So that was pretty mind-blowing, right? And before we go into detail about the features and specs of the lens, let's take a look at the unboxing video I did earlier. Now in the box, Sony it will include the lens with the manual instruction and the 1-year limited warranty for US and Canada. Now Sony also include the lens hood together with the lens. This is pretty amazing because not all lens manufacturers will do this for you. So thank you Sony for doing this. Now let's take a look at the build quality of the lens. The lens is all metal built and it weighs about 371 grams or approximately 13.1 ounces. Now the lens has a circular filter threads of 67mm for your UV or ND filter. And if you take a look into the glass, there are 9 circular aperture blades that will give us the 1.8 wide aperture, the widest aperture, and the f22 at the minimum aperture. Now, since it is the 1.8 lens, this will give us that blurry background or bokeh that separates our subject from the background. Here's an example of a picture that I took several days ago with this lens. You notice the background in this picture is blurred out and the flower in the center looks tech sharp. And that's what I love about this lens because you can make the image look so beautiful using this kind of lens of 1.8 aperture. Now, since it is also 1.8, it will give you that low light performance, like so whenever you take pictures at night, instead of raising your ISO, you can just shoot it at the widest aperture and there's gonna be more light hitting your sensor and you ended up with this kind of image. If you notice, the image is blurred out in the background but tech sharp in the center, and notice the cat eye shape bokeh that came from the lights on the background. That's the image that will make this picture pops out like a painting instead of like a picture. So you can get those kind of result only using this kind of lens. Now some people prefer the circular bokeh more than the cat eye shape bokeh. Well, if you're into that kind of feature, then you should check out the G Master 85mm that will give you more blurry background and with that circular bokeh, because that's the only difference, the shape of the bokeh and more blurred out background due to the 1.4. But if you're like me who shoots for weddings and simple photography, this will work nicely, so let's take a look at the features that this lens has to offer. The first one here is the focus lock button right here. Now what this will do is to place your subject on focus at all time by just touching this button right here. Now this is also could be customizable into like a different setting. So if you, for example, want to have this button to be set on eye autofocus, you could just do that by simply just assign this button to the eye autofocus setting. So this is pretty handy because, you know, if you have a certain feature that you want to implement into the lens, you could just sign the setting by one click. Now, the second feature is the autofocus to manual focus toggle switch right here. And the reason why I love this particular feature because how fast and easy for me to switch in and out from both modes, like autofocus and manual focus. And, you know, knowing how complex the Sony system is, I appreciate this feature on this lens because I could just go in and out within a second, and there's no delay when switching. Those two features alone, I think, to me, makes this lens very, very valuable under the price of $600. But this lens provides the last feature, which is also my favorite one, is the focusing ring on the lens. When I was shooting in manual focus, I find this focusing ring work very smoothly. So it gives that kind of like very smooth transition. Now, if you notice on this footage, like the video footage that I took on an art gallery show over the weekend, you notice my focus transition feels very naturally when I focus from one point to the other point. And that could only be possible with this focusing ring right here. So I am so happy with, you know, the experience I got from this lens, because everything is just, when it comes to photography or videography, you know, this lens covers it all. So to me, this is the ultimate lens for the 85mm focal length. Now, the lens also focusing very fast, and but you do have to be under certain distance to be in focus, and the minimum distance on the lens is 2.63 feet, or approximately 0.8 meter away from the distance. And unless you're within that range, you will not be able to retain focus. So keep in mind to be on the distance, at least to be like, you know, almost like 3 feet, you know, to be, you know, in focus with the subject. Now, what I also love about the focusing performance on this lens is that this lens focuses very quietly. Unlike the 85mm G Master that will create some noise as it focusing in and out on the autofocus, this lens does not have that issue. And it's really, really important when you do record video like I do. When you're hearing like the screeching sounds as it's focusing in and out, it's kind of annoying, and there's nothing you can do on the post to get rid of that when you are doing recording. Now, those are wonderful features of this lens. However, like any other lenses, it'll have some disadvantages, and some of the drawback from this lens that I know of is the fact that it doesn't have stabilization built in the lens. And for me, it's not a big deal because I use this lens with my Sony A7iii. You know, but for people who own like a Sony A6000, it makes it difficult for to get that stabilized image or video footage. So if you wanted to record this with like, you know, with the 6000 or the 6300, make sure to get a tripod or a gimbal when you're recording video. The second drawback that I see from this lens is the chromatic aberration in the image. Now, when I noticed that quite a few on my image, and it's not a big deal also because I can get rid of that on pose on any given software. But you know, this is where Zeiss 85mm shines the most because of the disadvantage, where Zeiss has the stabilization and less chromatic aberration. So you know, if you're just, you know, really picky about that feature to be implemented into the lens, then Zeiss is your lens choice. But you know, Zeiss did not have this autofocus manual focus switch, so that's another thing to be considered. And the focusing lock button. So you know, like I said, if stabilization is your thing, then Zeiss, I think, is the lens for you, you know, or less chromatic aberration. And the last thing about this lens that I don't like is the fact that this lens is not fully weather sealed. If you see there, it's just on the website it says dust and moisture resistant, but to me, I don't see this lens as like all weather condition lens. So you know, I won't recommend people to use this lens under like harsh critical weather condition, because it can have a negative impact on the lens. So use it, you know, under normal weather condition. So yeah, so those three are the drawbacks from the lenses. But other than that, I think you know, you'll find this lens very valuable and very like just amazing for all purposes, you know, photography or videography. So that has been the review of the Sony 85mm FE 1.8. If you guys have any questions or comment, or you know, just your experience on this lens, you know, or anything that I missed, go ahead and drop the comment on this the comment section below. And if you think that this review be any helpful, or you like the way that I review this, then go ahead and smash that like button. And if you have not subscribed to this channel, go ahead and click subscribe and turn on that notification on, and that way you won't miss any future videos on this channel. Now if you're interested on getting this particular lens, I'll go ahead and link that description below. And if you purchasing it through the link that I posted below, it will help a little bit on this channel, and it will enable me to create more content like this in this channel. Well, thank you for watching, guys, and I will see you guys on the next video on Gadgets on Demand. See you.